There are rumors flying around that Penn State is going to lose its five-star commitment in the class of 2027. Well, the recruiting news for the Nittany Lions actually gets worse from there.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
You are locked on to Penn State football recruiting, and thank you so much for making this crossover edition your first listen and watch of the day. Thank you to the everydayers out there for making us a part of your regular routine. My name is Zach Seyko. I'm the host of Locked On Nittany Lions, credentialed media member for both Penn State football and Penn State wrestling. Brian Smith is helping me out as a co-host today. Locked On the Portal, Locked On Seminoles. He is plugged in when it comes to recruiting. He is the recruiting expert here on the network. And we're going to talk about some of the latest drama here in the recruiting cycle. We're going to bring it to the present, though, as Penn State has a few key impact freshmen that you need to know about, recent recruits that are now actually set to make a tangible impact right out of the gate. Penn State is pushing for one of the top quarterbacks in the class of 2027. What is the likelihood that they land him? But Brian, the recruiting news around Kemon, the five-star commit, who is set to visit a bunch of other schools, that was public. And he shared the 6 schools that could most likely have the chance to flip him, but it gets worse from there. Spell is not the only Penn State 2027 commit that is looking around. This was recently reported by Rivals, who is the recruiting arm of On3 now with the merger. Khalil Taylor, who was a 5-star at one point. He was a fringe top 30 prospect. He's now kind of settled in with the shuffling of the rankings. He's a consensus 4-star. He's an industry 4-star. One of the top receivers in the country is also going to visit Ohio State this weekend with Kemon. Oh my goodness.
Well, yeah, I've told you this before. 5-star kids don't sit at home after they get committed. They're going to take visits. This is further proof of that. I know it doesn't make it any more fun, but 5-stars have leverage because they're 5-stars.
Yeah.
They have offers
top
from
100 players have leverage.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, these two might be top 20 players. And what are you going to do, Penn State? Drop them? They know that. It's awkward, but, I mean, there's not a lot you can really do here. You just recruit them. I would consider Penn State the leader, and you just continue moving forward. But for anybody new to this, Alabama has this happen. Texas has this happen. Notre Dame has this happen. Ohio State has this happen. Florida has this happen. It's just part of the territory.
So I guess the message that you have, Brian, this is the way that I'm translating it here. This is unfamiliar territory to an extent for, I think, the Penn State faithful and Penn State fans, and maybe even James Franklin himself here, because the way that recruiting operates is that if you're committed, and what's even more interesting here, and I know it's 2027, I know it's far away, but these guys went on the record. My recruitment shut down. I'm all in on Penn State. I'm locked in. Both Kemon and Khalil Taylor have said that individually on film. It's on tape. But what does that translate to? Does that mean that you're not taking any more visits? Okay, you're all in on Penn State. So are we going to trust the word of 2 rising juniors here? Well, now they're officially juniors going into this season since they have played games. But I think that's if people want to get used to Penn State being considered an elite program, this is what elite programs deal with. Your commitments, your recruit. Jeremiah Smith was not necessarily a lock to Ohio State when he was a recruit once upon a time. And that's what this iteration of Kemon, and unfortunately now Khalil Taylor in the process. So I think that's where people are upset that, what does your word mean? If you say your recruitment shut down, it's gone from not only you're verbally committed, but to go on the record to say that your recruitment shut down. I'm implying that you're not going to take visits, but I guess that's where we are with college football.
I think a lot of the time that's the intention, but once like I'll just use Kemon as an example. I watched his film for fun the other day, just because once coaches see that another rival program gets a player, and it could be Kemon or anybody else, and they didn't really get him on campus or whatever, there's oftentimes a major push, both in terms of communication and sometimes an NIL offer that the kid didn't even know about. The commitment's what triggers it. In my opinion, a lot of times it's better for a school to just be leading for a kid privately and he doesn't commit. to be honest, as crazy as that may seem, because especially if it's a kid like in a rural area or something. Now, Kemon was greater Pittsburgh area. It's not as easy to keep that quiet. But
yeah,
if the kid commits, it's all gangbusters getting after it. That Georgia, Ohio State, or Texas, or what, everybody's going to come after him. Like, his list is pretty nasty. He was not really a surprise. Anybody who watches his film knows that's a future NFL player. So it was going to come sooner or later. But by him committing that early to the Nittany Lions, it just made it easy to see who's the target. So Penn State's just going to have to deal with it. I mean, I'd rather be the team with the commitment than not. But this is going to be a deal all the way to signing day.
And yeah, like I said, the landscape in college football changes this. NIL, Ohio State can make it interesting. Notre Dame, I mean, USC has gotten into the fold. I have to remind myself of the 6 schools so here I have them pulled up. For Kemon Spell, again, Khalil Taylor just joining Kemon Spell. It's not, Spell hasn't been the one to go rogue. It's 2 Penn State Elite 2027 commits that are looking around. Ohio State, Tennessee, USC, Alabama, Notre Dame, and Michigan are the 6 that Kemon Spell had shared. He didn't go on the record to say, these schools can flip me, they will. I think he answered a question and shared, hey, these are the schools that I respect, but it's kind of the same thing. It's the end result at the end of the day, that these are the schools that you need to pay attention to, that Penn State's going to have to go up against and really out-recruit them to the finish line. I guess the saving grace here, Brian, is the benefit of the doubt. I want to bring it back and have a positive angle to this as well. You know, put as much stock as you want to in this. There's an anonymous account on X who seems very plugged in. Like, he has this very strong following. Whippial Sportsman, WPIAL Sportsman, who's very plugged in when it comes to Pittsburgh and recruiting, particularly around high school. So he says, why not? I mean, he's implying, why not for Kemon Spell and Khalil Taylor to take these visits? This is for fun. They're juniors. They still have a long ways away. Enjoy this recruitment process now, because you're not going to get it back. And essentially implied that this is for fun, that Penn State and everybody else, Penn State fans, shouldn't be worried about losing either of these prospects, particularly commenting on Kemon Spell, because, again, he's in the spotlight now. But saying that he wouldn't have committed to Penn State if they didn't check all of the boxes. It is going to be difficult to flip him away from Penn State because of that point. He knew what he was doing by committing to the Nittany Lions that early in the process.
I think there's some merit to what he's saying in terms of enjoy it and all that. But at the same time, old school fans are going to look at like you're committed or you're not. Mm-hmm. So that's
what some people have already said. Well, if you're looking at other schools, why just decommit already?
I get it, but my guess is this guy probably knows Kemon or is around his recruitment. It's probably not really. I imagine this is somebody that's outing himself. If you're around their situation, my guess is it's somebody that's known. But anyway, the point is still the same. The kid's going to go take the visits and he's supporting him. Somebody in his family, it's an agent, whatever, it's doing the post. But still, the kid's taking the visit because he wants to. It's his right. It's America. You can go and do what you want, but you're going to take slack for it. This guy's trying to cover him. It's not going to work. Fans only want to hear one thing: my school and my school only. So if he takes visits, he's going to get hammered for it. So that's not going to change. There's going to be a lot of mad fans, and that you can't take that away. So if he didn't commit, he wouldn't have to worry about it, but he did commit.
So for the sake of the conversation, let's just answer this. What is the concern level here for Penn State fans for both Kemon Spell and Khalil Taylor? Again, Kemon Spell name dropping 6 schools is concerning, whereas Khalil Taylor just kind of flying under the radar, taking this visit with a fellow Penn State commit. So where would you put this at for the Nittany Lions?
Kemon Spell, I'd be a lot more worried about than I would Taylor. From being around Taylor, I get the impression that he really prefers Penn State. I'm not saying that he, couldn't go somewhere else. I'm imagining he wants to see who Penn State gets at quarterback, et cetera. No 2 positions in sport are more connected than wide receiver and quarterback, and that's fair.
Yeah.
But with Kemon, you're talking about a situation, the schools he's looking at, a lot of them are heavy hitters with NIL. I like his situation as well for Penn State. I think that one's a lot rougher.
All right. So perfect segue into the second segment because you mentioned Khalil Taylor probably wants to know who Penn State's going to get at quarterback. Well, that's what we're going to talk about. Penn State is pushing for a top 10 quarterback in the class of 2027, which will set off a domino effect with the way that this 2027 cycle goes for the Nittany Lions. Who is that prospect? What are Penn State's chances of landing him to really set the foundation here? It is that important. We're going to talk about it next here on this Locked On Crossover. And today's episode is brought to you by Upside. Hey, Nittany Lion fans, are you still paying a full price for gas? Well, stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code FOOTBALL and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, I thought this was too good to be true, but it is totally legit, and real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes. You can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code FOOTBALL. That's football for a limited time, 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code FOOTBALL. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. And today's episode is also brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business are available. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Do you need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Their Trademaster perks, like priority shipping and dedicated support, make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line over at supplyhouse.com. That's supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege for 5% off your first order over at supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. And before we get back to the podcast, we have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from all of you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't like, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered in for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks for helping us out. Penn State is in pursuit of a top 10 quarterback in the class of 2027. And with his commitment, Brian, with everything that we talked about, maybe that cools things down for Kemon Spell and Khalil Taylor, because it just shows, hey, Penn State is really trying to build out this class of 2027. We want to be a part of that and be alongside of what James Franklin is trying to continue here, especially if you have the momentum from an extremely successful 25 season. Keegan Croucher is that quarterback. Penn State had missed out originally on its quarterback target to Michigan. I won't say this is a pivot because I feel like this is a 1A, 1B situation. Croucher is in the top 10. He is industry just outside of the top 100, according to Rivals, 24/7, and ESPN. So in this, he's legit. 6'3", listed at 190 pounds. He's from the New York area. What's going to be interesting for Penn State is going up against Oregon and Ole Miss. So this is not your typical recruiting battle here. It's not against Ohio State. It's not against Michigan. So I'm eager to see how this one unfolds, but those are the official top 3 schools for Keegan Croucher here. What do you like about Croucher as a prospect, Brian?
I've seen him throw pretty traditional throwing motion. It's consistent. Demeanor is consistent. Carries himself like a quarterback. He just kind of seems like a fit for Penn State, like personality-wise and everything. I don't think they're going to have a hard time selling him on the fit, but you mentioned Oregon and Ole Miss, and this is a microcosm of how wild recruiting is now. You can't really get three more different programs.
Yeah.
Like cultures, like Central Pennsylvania, Northern Mississippi, and Oregon. I mean, that's wild. But that's college football, and that's what makes it the greatest sport on earth. It's such a unique brand everywhere you go. So with that, I'm curious, does he run that much? Because I saw him in a camp setting. Now, they don't get hit. So to play for Kiffin, you got to run some. To play for Lanning, probably got to run some. Does he want to do that? All those things. What's he looking into? All of the visits. That's, by the way, I talk about a plane flight, New York to Oregon. Oof, that's rough for an unofficial visit. Does he go to a game there? I think it's far more likely he goes to a game at Ole Miss, I would imagine.
He's set to visit all three schools this season. He's set to go to games for all three schools.
Wow. Racking up the frequent flyer miles out there in the state of New York, Mr. Croucher. Okay. Well, if he does that, then it becomes interesting. It's one thing to say those things, but he could be at Penn State in like 6 hours driving.
Yeah.
It's about 6 hours on a freaking plane to get to Oregon. So I'd imagine it's going to be a very interesting situation with Oregon. That'll be an in or out because either you fit there or you don't. Ole Miss is the intriguing one because Kiffin is a really good quarterback coach. It's really not debatable.
Yeah.
But do you want to fit into that? Like a New York kid going to Northern Mississippi is about as fish out of water as it gets. I have no idea if he'll like it. Maybe he's got family down there. But this is a recruitment I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole and figuring out where he's going because, again, those three schools are so abjectly odd to one another. So I don't know, man. This is why I enjoy recruiting, though. There's going to be a sidebar somewhere. There's a connection. You know, somebody knows one of the coaches at his school or whatever. But as a player, this is a guy Penn State should go after from the Northeast. He's got the talent. Why not?
Yeah, he'll have unofficial visits lined up, or he's already taken a bunch of unofficial visits before over the course of the summer. According to the visit counter that Rivals has, Penn State has been his most visited destination. Michigan was the secondary school, but they got Peter Bork's commitment. So obviously Keegan Croucher isn't going to go to the Wolverines. It seemed like it was Penn State versus Michigan early on. And then the Wolverines got their preferred quarterback over Penn State. That was the mutual commit recruitment that I was referring to. You missed out on Peter Bork. You missed out on Teddy Gerard, who's committed to Notre Dame. Penn State liked all three quarterbacks respectively. But now if you don't get this quarterback, I'm not really, and again, we're talking so far in advance. I know other prospects could emerge. Somebody that we're not even remotely talking about or focused on could be a late riser over the summer or something like that. Ethan Grunkemeyer, for example, was that case. But I do think in the scheme of things with what we've talked about with Kemon Spell and Khalil Taylor, you got to get this commitment. I don't mean it to be such an all or nothing type of scenario, but you don't know what you have down the road. If you like Keegan Croucher, push for him. Try to get him.
Yeah, this is the right play. You got to – do you know which game he's coming for Penn State? Like, is it just one game? Is it two games? Or is any of that listed anywhere? Because if he comes to that whiteout game, I'd be really excited to see what his comments were after.
The plan is to be at Penn State, Indiana. Nothing exactly set in stone. That's a
good game, though.
Tentative plan.
That's a really good game. You would take that in a heartbeat. I think Indiana's a top 20 team. They were just in the playoff. That's fine. So
the reason he's not going to the whiteout is because he's going to be at LSU against Ole Miss on September 27th.
Yeah, I think that's the weekend Ole Miss has got everybody coming. It's Ole Miss versus LSU. That's a big deal in the South. That game's really big.
No, I believe it.
So I'm not surprised. Well, let's see what the visits say. But like you brought up something at the beginning of this segment. This is going to have repercussions for the dominoes for the rest of the class, quarterback-wise. I'm not talking about Penn State, like just across the board.
Yeah.
Ohio State, Notre Dame, Michigan got a quarterback, and there might be one or two others, but we're on that cusp point where if you're going to get somebody, you got to jump in. And the coaches hate this because they want to see all their junior film first, but you can get stuck holding the bag. So if you've got a guy like this you've had on campus, you've probably seen throw a couple of times, you probably feel a hell of a lot better about it than you do some of the other kids, because it's not the same. You have to see quarterbacks alive. For those that scout, like any quarterback coach, offensive coordinator I talk to, they don't care what the kid's ranked. 99.9% of them will not give official offer until they've seen them right in front of their face. As I've said before on this show, I'll say it again. The most stubborn human beings on earth are college football coaches. They are. It's awful.
As it should be.
I mean, well, to a certain degree, like there's certain kids you watch, you're like, okay, this is dumb. But at the same time, this kid probably, again, seems like a fit off the field for Penn State too, from what little I know about him. That's the signifier for me. I saw something recently. I don't remember who James was talking to, but when the head coach says we have questions for kids when we meet them, we want to talk to them, how they answer, their body language, every little thing they do, how they're sitting. Like James Franklin has a laundry list, and he just rattled it off.
He's meticulous. Yep.
And I agree with him. I've said numerous times here as well that Penn State's got one of the best cultures in college football. So it's not just what you're ranked, it's how you fit, because you got to sign the kid, develop him, and keep him.
Mm-hmm.
Penn State doesn't lose that many kids to the portal that somebody else really wants. They lose a lot of kids that aren't playing. That's just reality. About one kid a year that they would probably like to keep takes a paycheck to go somewhere else. Okay, whatever. Yeah. But they're gaining more kids that they're getting from somebody else's roster. So overall, they win. Not many schools can say that are of consequence. So while teams like Miami took 19 transfers, Florida State took 23, et cetera, because they missed in recruiting, Penn State's had a better balance. This is the kind of kid you have to get to help be the Pied Piper of your recruiting class. Quarterback's important, especially if you get one early. The Nittany Lions do that. It will probably help you with a lot of other guys.
Well, like we said before, in 2026, they didn't exactly get there. I mean, Troy Hune's a really good prospect, but that run on quarterbacks, it didn't break in Penn State's favor. They were able to pivot and get somebody, but it also goes back to this 3-year trend of you didn't, since Ethan Grunkemeyer, you didn't get a top 10 QB in 2024 or 2025, excuse me. 2026, even though, again, I do like Troy Hume. And then 2027, if you don't get Keegan Croucher, then you're on a trajectory that you don't want to be on at this given moment. Let's dial it back to the present. Again, that's so far out. These are junior football players. A lot could change, both in the negative, but also in the positive. How about the present? There's a lot of positive with these impact freshmen who were recently recruits. We're talking true freshmen that are going to play right away and have a tangible impact. One player in particular is so intriguing because of the turnaround that he's had in development. We're going to talk about that next here on this Locked On Crossover. And today's show is brought to you by Game Time. College football is back. I couldn't be more excited. We all couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands. There's just nothing like it, but let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives you the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. And when you pull up Game Time, in just a couple of taps, you'll have those amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games for as low as $25. And if you're thinking about Penn State football games, Game Time has tickets for Penn State football. And if you've never been to Beaver Stadium, one of the best features on Game Time is the seat views ahead of time. You'll have that point of view. So if you've never been to Beaver Stadium or any venue, you're not second guessing yourself when you pick out your tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets, college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. There are 4 true freshmen that are going to emerge here for Penn State in this upcoming season, and in my opinion, they need them, especially at defensive end. So the 4 players, and again, there could be players that are added to this list, but the ones that immediately stand out, and Brian, you have them top of mind here. Chaz Coleman, Yvan Kemajou at defensive end, Koby Howard, who you saw a lot, and again, you know him very well, wide receiver. Penn State needs wide receivers, right? And then Daryus Dixson out of Mater Dei. I mean, Daryus Dixon, if it wasn't so crowded, I think would be a routine playmaker for Penn. He could start. He is that good, but Penn State is really crowded in its defensive back room. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. But Chaz Coleman specifically, I want to speak to him first because he wasn't a defensive end his entire high school career. He played quarterback. He was a basketball star. Then senior season, moves to defensive end, makes a splash. Penn State identifies him first, gets his commitment. Ohio State tried to push for him. They retain that commitment. Good. The Nittany Lions beat Ohio State. This is a key recruiting battle here. He doesn't enroll early. He enrolls over the summer. And in a short time has put on 25 pounds and is now somebody that's going to possibly be a 2-deep rotation player at defensive end. And with some questionable status of Zuriah Fisher, who should be the starter, he's dealing with bumps and bruises now or just lingering effects from his long-term injury. Chaz Coleman might be a regular. He's going to play at least 30 snaps against Nevada per James Franklin. The turnaround here is unworldly, Brian, on Coleman.
You know what? If you come in and you earn it, there's some guys like that are just unexplainable. Like in the last few years, a lot of programs, Alabama, Notre Dame, Florida, whatever. Did anybody really think DJ Lagley was going to hit the ground running at quarterback at Florida? No. Or Leonard Moore at Notre Dame at corner? No. Like there's just random stuff. And guys enroll like that. You don't know, but if he's taking 25 pounds onto his body and all that, like, that's nuts. My question for you is, do you trust that Penn State's going to be able to use him enough early, more so to keep snaps off of the main guys?
Yeah.
Or do you think he's going to be a guy that can be long-term as a freshman, possibly in the 2-deep? Either one of like, what do you think? Is that realistic? I mean, they got some dudes on defense.
I think they almost need him at this point. I was not expecting Zuriah Fisher to be questionable going into the season. I don't know if he plays in this out of conference. Not that Penn State needs him, but the impression that we got, hey, this is a player you're not talking about enough. That's what James Franklin will say when he's pointing to a breakout player of some sort. He said that about Tyler Warren once upon a time. He said that about Khalil Dinkins going into the season. He said that about Zuriah Fisher over the summer. And now Zuriah Fisher might not be available. He was missing from practice this week. So if you're missing the player that's replacing Abdul Carter, you're missing Abdul Carter. You're replacing the player that was going to give you at least enough production not to miss Carter too much. You might be down him, and then you go to Chaz Coleman or Jalen Harvey. Jalen Harvey was the side. I mean, he's a redshirt freshman. I would consider both of these guys first-year players to an extent because Harvey didn't really play all that much last season. Defensive end, I mean, Deion Barnes deserves a lot of credit for being able to have the turnaround on this in such a short amount of time, but it still is, you got to see it. So I think out of necessity, but also because he can handle it, Coleman, I mean, they could play Jalen Harvey more. They could play Malachi Williams more. They could play Yvan Kemajou, fellow true freshman, more. And it's been the Chaz Coleman show generating all the buzz here. They nicknamed him, Brian, the Chazmanian Devil. There is so much buzz around Chaz Coleman. It's not even fun. Over the past 5 years, I haven't seen anything like this, where this freshman has taken so much of the spotlight in such a short time. I want to talk about Kemajou, Daryus Dixson, Koby Howard as we, run out of time here. Kemajou is also, because there's a need for it, he's going to play at defensive end. Strong side, I think he could end up being the backup immediately to deny Dennis Sutton if things continue to go well. He doesn't officially have that true green light, but eventually he will. Daryus Dixon does. Daryus Dixon is supposed to actually be a senior in high school, Brian. You've seen a good amount of his film. He's out of the state of California, but you've just watched him out of, a necessity. This guy he makes headlines, and he's going to be, I think, Penn State's future shutdown corner. That's very similar to a Joey Porter Jr., for example. That's what I think Daryus Dixon's outlook is.
I think he's a guy that's probably 3 and out. He'll start as a sophomore. He'll play a lot as a freshman. There you go. He's the guy. You don't really have to dig into it. Played at Mater Dei. He's technically sound. He's mentally advanced. And physically, he's God-given. It's all the above. So, yeah, I think that he's going to be a guy. My question is, how do they use him the rest of this year? Will he play any nickel? Is it always on one side or other? Are they going to be able to move him around? I'm curious what he can handle with the playbook. That's hard. And the more he learns now, the easier it will be for him to transition into being the guy. next year. I forget the kid's name, but the one kid that transferred in from Georgia will probably turn pro after this year. So they're
AJ Harris, yep.
So you need somebody.
Yeah.
But it's good that he's getting reps now, because once they get the games 4, 5, 6, then it gets real.
Precisely for that reason. I do think that he steps immediately into that AJ Harris role of being the number one cornerback. Jim Knowles has gone on the record and said, out of all his time coaching college football, which is a long time, may I add, he has said that Daryus Dixson is the most impressive freshman that he's ever seen at this point in time. So that is truly high praise. Now let's talk about Koby Howard to wrap things up here on this crossover. Koby Howard doesn't have the official green light yet because of some concerns on special teams for James Franklin and the coaching staff, but he's running with the 1s and 2s. He's in this rotation of 6 right out of the gate. He enrolled early. Somebody that's commitment took longer than maybe it should have is now progressing into someone that will be a key contributor for Penn State's offense sooner rather than later. Brian, sum it all up here. Why should Penn State fans be excited about Koby Howard?
He's going to make you miss. He has tremendous ball skills, first step explosiveness, and most importantly, Koby is, ever since I met him when he was a freshman in high school, was an elite competitor. First time I saw him, by the 3rd rep, it was just a private workout. I had his guy and a friend of mine set up. By the 3rd rep, I said, this is a major Power 4 football player. So, I mean, when you stand from 5 feet away, it's kind of hard to miss kids that are shot out of a cannon. But I'm filming him. I'm like, this kid, he's a little small right now, but he's got 3 years of high school left. He's going to go wherever he wants, pretty much. He was making catches against Division I players. At the same workout, there's a corner that's now starting at Florida State, etc. I mean, there were guys there, and he stood out above everybody else that were 2 and 3 years older than him. So I think this is a guy that will play a lot, and he's fearless. Penn State fans will like him, and I just don't think they're going to be able to keep him on the sidelines very long, because he can make things happen with his feet that have nothing to do with coaching, just natural ability.
And that is where we will end things on this crossover edition. My name is Zach Seyko. I'm the host of Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily source for all things Penn State football, Penn State sports in general. He is Brian Smith, the recruiting expert. Emphasis on the expert here with the Locked On Podcast Network. You can check out his work over at The Portal, the daily source for all things recruiting, transfer portal, and again, it doesn't stop. Also, Locked On Seminoles, and makes so many guest appearances across the network talking about college football, more outside of recruiting. So thank you so much for checking out this show. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to the everydayers. If you're not an everydayer, become one. Subscribe to the YouTube channels and wherever you get your podcasts as we do this daily. Brian, it was great to chat with you again. Hopefully recruiting gets that. It's a negative wave, but hopefully that momentum turns around for Penn State. But I appreciate your perspective as always.
Thank you, sir.